background, please give a warm welcome to Barry. So thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So in today's chat, I'd like to cover a bit about your background. We'll then move on to the honesty story, and we'll end off with a couple questions on game theory. After that, we'll open it up to audience question and answer. So I'll start off by asking you a bit about your background, what your parents did, where you grew up, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yes.
You said you will ask me this
I
question.
will. I will. That's the question. So, where did your parents?
Okay, it's just, it's getting all excited here. So I grew up in Boston, in a suburb called Newton, where I went to high school and then also went to college, and applied to Yale. Did not get in, so I guess now I get to be here as a professor. And
But where did you go? You went to.
well, when people say they went to school in Boston, that generally means they went to Harvard, but I went to MIT.
Okay.
And I thought I was going to be a mathematician, but ended up studying economics. Fell in love with it, and did my PhD in economics and then game theory.
Okay.
Is what.
So you went from MIT, and then you went abroad after that. Is that
I
correct?
did my doctorate in Oxford,
Okay.
where I lost my Boston accent.
Okay. And I guess tell me a bit about the experience at Oxford and
It rained a lot.
Right.
It's like this all the time, and so you will not get skin cancer if you live in England. So this was also the time of Thatcher and Reagan, and the typical reaction to Americans in England was sort of, we hate you. This is the students, not everyone, but it's sort of, and how do I get a scholarship to go to America? So there's a little bit of dichotomy in terms of both a love-hate relationship, but it was also a great place to study, and I had the privilege of working under a fellow named Jim Merles, who went on to win the Nobel Prize, and had a chance to write some work with Amartya Sen, who also won a Nobel Prize, and
wow.
so they were just a remarkable collection of faculty at the time.
Okay, and then you finished your doctorate there, and I guess you came back to America. And,
Yeah, I came to Harvard, so I was at Oxford for 2 years, I was at Harvard for 3, Princeton for 4, so I couldn't hold a job, would be another way of looking at it.
And when you were at Princeton, were you a professor, a teacher, or were you studying still?
No, I was a professor.
You're a professor then. Okay. So then after that, you decided to come to Yale and be a professor here, and some time in, you meet your co-founder Seth, or he was a student.
Well, actually, it turned out both Seth and I had taught in a high school program called Exploration. So we had actually had some other connections, and his dad is an economist, or at least studies Russian economics. So that was another sort of interesting that therefore he had a better appreciation of what it meant to be a professor since he grew up, and actually his mom studies China and his dad studies Russia, so it's sort of interesting. And
was he one of your, I guess, star pupils? Or?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
At the time, I taught a course on political economic marketing, which was essentially taking political marketing tools and bringing them to business. And he had been a press secretary for Lloyd Bentsen, senator, and took the class and was a star in that class. And then he ended up winning Yale's first business plan competition. This was 1995, I guess. And I advised him on this. His idea for a product was, it turns out there was a test strip, like you know how diabetics will use a test strip with urine that'll turn colors based on their sugar? Is this something that you know what I'm talking about? So instead of changing color based on sugar, you would change color based on whether you had a urinary tract infection. a UTI. And so this technology was created here. These strips were pretty cheap. And the question is, so I'll ask you, what would you do with that technology?
Take it to market.
Yeah, but what? How are we going to take it to market? So somebody's got this technology. They create a little piece of paper that can change color if you have a UTI. Okay. All right, a medical company.
A group of females anywhere?
I'm sorry?
A group of females anywhere.
Something with females anywhere. I missed the first word.
I said a group of females anywhere that would make use of it.
Yeah, I don't think you could make a lot of. The problem with selling test strips is that for the most part, they're not going to pay that much money for it. I don't know. I mean, you might buy one test strip, and it'll last you years, hopefully, because you don't have them that often, and you don't need to test that often.
Medical facilities, hospitals.
Yeah. So his idea was twofold. One is put them in adult incontinent diapers. So that essentially you have seniors who may not be able to express themselves in terms of why they're being unhappy. And this turns a diaper into a medical device, which means then it's covered under Medicaid, and that was really good. And essentially for nursing home facilities and the like, this would be a sort of a superior adult diaper. And then the other was to put them in kitty litter so that you could discover if your kitten had a UTI. And essentially, whatever Felix, whatever you name your cat, has no particular good way of expressing why they're unhappy, but now you might know. So I thought those were two pretty good ideas, and that's why he won this business plan competition, and people were willing to invest and incorporate him in all sorts of things.
Did you speak to Seth about this idea for?
Can I finish this?
Sorry.
So,
yeah.
However, one of the things I really respected about Seth is he decided not to proceed with his business. Because it might have actually worked, it might have made some money, but one, he didn't really want to be sort of the king of kitty litter, or the, I don't know.
Champion of adult diapers.
Yeah, I need a D though, that works with the Doma, I don't know what it is, the Dojo? There you go, Dojo of diapers. And so he had a passion for making a difference, and I think these things make a little bit of a difference, but somehow it didn't really feel right to him. He founded Net Impact at Yale while he was here, and sort of really wanted to have this social mission. And so this was a kid. I said, look, love this guy, and I hope I can find some opportunity to do something with him in the future, but you never know. And in the class that I teach on strategy, talked about my favorite idea for a beverage, which was mixing club soda and orange juice. How many of you do that here? And how many of you, and we'll keep the hands up, but we'll add to orange juice, it could be cranberry juice, grape juice, pomegranate juice. Okay, so we don't really have that many, surprisingly. I'd say it's only about 20% of them. And so I talked about why don't the soda companies make a sane product? Why don't they make a soda with 20 calories, 30 calories? Why don't they mix OJ and club soda? Why, in some sense, water is boring, diet is dangerous, and soda is liquid candy. And so why isn't there anything in between? And this was ultimately sort of a little bit of my take on the Coke and Pepsi case, which is the traditional case, so I don't teach it the traditional way. And Seth sort of said, I kind of feel the same way. And then some 4 years later, he calls me up, says, I've been working at Calvert Fund, doing socially responsible investment for many years, and wondering if you ever did anything with that idea for a not too sweet beverage.
Okay.
So that was that's the connection to Seth.
Okay. So I guess we then start talking about this idea. And at the time he had left Yale. He was working for the fund.
Right.
Um, I guess you both saw the opportunity there, but you know, what was the premise of Honest Tea? You know, getting it off the ground. You spoke to him, but what was the kind of aha moment?
Yeah. So, I guess you should go back a step. So why did I not do OJ and club soda?
It's very similar to another product.
No, it isn't.
No.
What product do you think it's similar to? Orangina is a fake. Basically, Orangina is 5% OJ and has as much sugar and as many calories as OJ.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, it's sort of people think it's a healthy version of orange, but it isn't. So my product is half the calories of orange juice. Why? Because only half orange juice.
Right.
It's half the cost of OJ. Why?
Half the same.
Because only half orange juice. But I'm going to sell it for the same price. So this is going to be good. So it'll be an all natural soda. So why do I not do this? This is an important lesson for any entrepreneur.
People can just mix orange juice and
People can make tea.
Did you test it? Did you focus
Let's
on it?
assume that there's huge demand for it, which I believe is true.
Okay.
So I do not think that was the problem. And just take the 20% of the people in this room. That if I can get a product that 20% of the people in this room like, I'm good.
How to market it?
I know how to market it.
Does it in any way revolve around refrigeration or?
It has to be refrigerated, but okay, so does OJ. What do you think in the back with the shrugging shoulders?
I don't know, I thought I heard somebody else say because you could just mix it at home yourself.
You can, but you can make tea at home too.
Oh, right.
So I think this is a key lesson for any entrepreneur, that your goal in life is not to be the test market for somebody else. So if I succeeded in this, what is likely to have happened? Tropicana, who has fantastic orange juice, fantastic distribution,
There's no barrier to entry.
could copy me in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
and their cost would be lower, distribution is better, and I'm done. So all I would have ended up doing is proving this was a great idea. Is there any reason why Tropicana would buy me?
No.
No, they've got a great brand.
Yeah.
So therefore, the problem with most good business ideas is they're a good idea for somebody else. And that's very annoying. But had I done that, I think I'd be a bitter person today. And I'd go around and say, Tropicana stole my idea. And I had it first. And Adam wouldn't come invite me to talk to you all. So that was a real issue. And but so for 10 years, I was kind of thinking about this, stuck on it. And I happened to go to India for completely separate reasons. And I ended up writing a case study on tea in India. The reason was our dean at the time wanted our school to become more international. And therefore, we wanted the faculty to write cases about from other countries. And I'd never been to India, but I figured, okay, you know, good chance for me to experience some other cultures. And so I said, okay, well, he had a connection with Tata. And so I said, well, let's pick an old business and a new business. And the new business was cars, and the old business was tea. And so I end up going to a tea auction as part of this in Kolkata, and I discover three things about tea. Number one, I can tell good tea from bad tea. Okay, so I am not a tea connoisseur, but I realized I have been drinking crap my whole life. That the stuff that you have in Lipton and PG Tips and the like is really, really bad tea. Okay, so it the equivalent. Okay, I'll go. And good tea only costs a nickel a cup. Now, one of the things that you will notice, to the extent you travel in India and China and actually much of the world, is that people who have much less income than we do drink better tea than we do. Which is really weird, right? I mean, basically, in the United States, we could afford to drink tea that costs a nickel a cup, and yet we're drinking the bad tea. In China, where people don't have as much money, they drink much better tea than we do. Same thing in India. So why is that? I'm sorry? They're exporting. No, so we don't know any better. I understand why everybody doesn't drive a Mercedes. Okay, it's pretty expensive. But one of my conclusions is that if great tea costs a nickel a cup, is there any reason to drink bad tea?
Nope.
No. So I'm sitting there thinking, me who's not an expert can tell the difference, and great tea costs a nickel a cup. Okay. So I'm kind of confused about what's going on here and why there isn't any good tea in the United States. And I'm asked by Tata, they want to export more of their teas to the United States. At the time they were selling it to, I don't know, Turkestan, various sort of Russian satellite countries that I can't spell. Now, how many of you have heard of Tata at this point? Okay, you all. And you've heard of him because of Tata Consultant, Tata Nano, Cars, so the Nano cars, okay? 15 years ago, 17 years ago, no one in the United States had heard of Tata. If you were in computer science, maybe, you would have heard of Tata Consultants, but it was not a brand known in the United States. In India, the Tata name is golden. If you buy a Tata watch, a Titan actually, and it breaks, your view is that you had bought a counterfeit, because if it was a real Tata product, it would work. Okay, is that a fair description? That they have a very good reputation, and you're nodding your head, so I'll take that as a yes. And so my view, what I said to them is, look, if you want to sell your great tea outside of India, you should pick a brand that represents what you stand for. And you stand for being trustworthy, reliable. So call yourself Honest Tea. And the response that I got was, no, thank you. We like the Tata name very much. And my response was, well, Mr. Tata, I guess I understand that. In that case, I'll keep the name. So I come home from India, and now I have the product that's going to be the less sweet product, which is high quality tea. And what's great about tea is it comes in lots of varieties. There's green tea, there's black tea, there's oolong tea, there's herbal tea. And if you use really good tea, you don't have to hide the flavor with lots of sugar. And I have the name, Honest Tea. Now, it turns out that I had, at the time, thought the name would be Honestea. So I can show you that it actually helps to see. Sec. Computer's not happy here. There we go. So that's what I thought the name should be. And what we discovered, that was Ho Nestea.
Right.
Okay? Ho, ho, ho. So, when we went to trademark this, we got a letter back from Nestea saying, sorry,
Can't do it.
can't do that. And let me say that your first act as in a company should not be to get into a legal dispute with Nestle. I don't advise that. And so what do you do in response to that? It turns out you add a space and an extra T. And the word honest is not trademarkable, but the word honest with a T, it is, because T is not naturally honest or dishonest. So it's a weak trademark in the sense that you can't own the word honest. But the combination actually works pretty well. And it turns out that's a much better name than that. Because this, people don't, is that Hones tea? Honestea?
Yeah, they have pronunciation issues.
So that's a much more trademarkable thing. By the way, in terms of lawyers, you know, we did all this ourselves. And that is, you can go online, the USPTO, and you don't really need to pay people to do trademark searches. They're easy to do, and moreover, for the amount of money that you would spend getting a lawyer to do this, you can just file, and then if it's a problem, you'll learn. But it'll be cheaper to file than to pay the lawyer to even check. So, not that I mean, it's not that hard to check. You type in the words, and you see what there is. So you can do your own check. So,
Question.
yeah.
I can save it for the end as well,
No,
but
go.
I was wondering how this concept is different from the orange mixed with soda one. If someone can also, I'm sure one of large companies can source, produce, distribute,
So
and
that
then
is
copy it as well.
that is probably the most important question that anybody will ask. So you're paying attention. And so how would you answer that?
Well, it takes longer for them to copy because you would have to go out and source it and
Yeah.
experiment with flavors
Not
potentially.
okay, so let's talk about how we got our flavors.
Testing.
Not really. We did a few focus groups in my kitchen. Actually, I'll take a slight detour for a moment. So, I come back from India, have the name, the idea.
Yeah.
Seth calls me up. We're like on board. We're going to start. How long from day one to our first sale?
Should be quick.
Well, what's quick?
30 days.
There's, okay, remember, at this point we have no production, no labels,
Oh, a year and a half.
no recipes, no sourcing. So we have a year and a half,
12 months.
12 months. And our first sale was about $15,000. So I mean, I don't mean like a little sale to,
Okay.
I
Like a
mean-
bulk.
I mean it's a sale to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
10 days.
10 days.
You guys are slacking.
I know the answer.
25 days. And the reason I'm pointing out, I want to respond to the question, where do you get the recipes from? Where do you get the recipe? If you're going to do this in 25 days, where are you going to get the recipe from?
Make-
You're going to steal them.
Oh.
So what I mean by that is, how do people drink tea in India? Chai. So basically, what is that?
Tea with spices.
And what are the spices?
Like cardamom, cinnamon,
Black pepper
yeah, black pepper, yes.
and ginger. So there you go. Black tea with cardamom, cinnamon, pepper, and ginger. Away we go. Okay. So here's an example of one of our labels. And we say on the back, it doesn't take an econ PhD to brew tea, but Barry has one. Sometimes it actually helps. Here's how. Sugar, like most goods, has a declining marginal utility. 1 teaspoon takes away the bitterness. Another adds a nice sweetness. That's where we stop. More sugar adds calories, but not much more taste. By the time you've got 6 teaspoons per serving, it's liquid candy. Green Dragon tea is organic and just a tad sweet. If you are, I think this might be, each tea has a delicate flavor and only 1/6 the calories of those super sweet tea flavored drinks. Be another example of one of our labels. So if you are Coca-Cola, you can't say that because essentially you are knocking the other products, which is where you make all your money. And so one thing that can really protect you, not forever, but for a while, is cognitive dissonance. In the sense that if you're trying to be the anti-Snapple, it's hard for Snapple to be both the Snapple and the anti-Snapple. Because if you're reaching in the cabinet to get a Snapple, what are you expecting? Sugar water. And if in fact what you get is honest tea, are you going to like it or not? You're not. We're not trying to go after Snapple drinkers. We're going to go after people who didn't like Snapple. So therefore, if you're a Snapple and selling this product, what do you have to put on it?
Sugar.
A warning saying, don't drink this if you like Snapple. Right? And so Snapple cannot afford to sort of turn off its customers. So it's a really tricky business for them to try and do this segment.
Would they be able to just rebrand? Because like all these big brands, Kellogg's, Unilever, like no one knows all of the different brands that fall
look,
under the umbrella.
Disney couldn't do, quote, adult or R-rated movies, so they create Touchstone. Okay, and Snapple could in theory create another brand, but even when they do, they're going to neuter it, in the sense they won't let that other brand go after the sugar daddy in as big a way. Another thing that was true is that the size of the organic tea market when we started out probably couldn't have sold more than 10 million bottles. And so if you're Coke and Pepsi, say this is just irrelevant.
Yeah.
But of course, organic tea ends up growing in its supply quite rapidly, and always fortunately ahead of where we needed it to be. So you don't need to prevent somebody from copying you forever. You just need to give yourself some running room, and so the ability to go in Whole Foods, which is a sort of a non-Coke friendly channel, the cognitive dissonance aspect of it, the limited supply, and then there's something else that big companies often do to shoot themselves in the foot or the head, which is they put crazy tests up, hurdles up to bring new products to market. So they say in order to bring this new product to market, you have to beat the incumbent 60-40 in a taste test.
Who says that?
I'm sorry? That's a Nestle rule. If you're working at Nestle and you want to bring out honest tea, you have to do a market research in which you win 60-40. Okay? So imagine you do a focus group with honest tea. What's the result going to be? Against Snapple, let's say.
It's gonna be 0 because they like Snapple.
Okay, but let's just say you take random set of people in the population.
Maybe 2080?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
That's if we're good, we're 2080. Okay, so what happens to the thing at Nestle?
It doesn't pass.
It doesn't even come close, right? It's kill. Now, my response is that people who like Snapple, the 80, they have 30 products to choose from. Because they can go for Nestea, Arizona, Sobe, Lipton, I keep on going. For the 20 who prefer our product, we're it. And so I'd rather have the 20% all to myself than share the 80 with 10 or 15 other people. And so it was a particularly bad hurdle they put up. Now there's something else that they do that I think leads them astray. And that's illustrated in this picture here. Can you see the curve or not in that? I may have a bigger picture of it to help you. Here we go. So that's a blow up of that. Okay, now you can really see it? So if you're a food company, how do you do your market research? What's the way in which you do it? So I don't know, Ms. Can, what's your first name?
Oh, Sherry.
Sherry. So Sherry wants to bring her new product to market, and she's working at Nestle or Coke. What is she going to do?
Taste tests.
Taste test. And what kind of taste test is she going to do?
Blind.
Blind. Okay? So you can have basically a whole set of cups, And we put those cups out, people are going to say what they like. And when they do that, where are they going to go on the taste sugar curve?
Probably pretty high.
Well, I claim they're going to go to the top of the curve. They're going to go to this point right here, which maximizes taste. Okay, now, one question is, by the way, who are they going after? And so this is, again, you should appreciate this is a really long answer to your question. But since it's the most important question, might as well answer it. So one other issue in terms of the Cokes and the Snapples of this world is who is their target audience when they're making products for?
The sugar-loving audience.
But who is that in particular?
Most people.
No. Claim it's
Don't.
adolescents, teens. And their view is a little bit like cigarettes. If I hook you when you're young, I got you for life. And what they forget is that people's tastes change. Literally tastes buds. And that as you get older, you may have a slower metabolism. You may be less interested in totally sugary things. If you're pregnant, you may decide, I really want to change what I'm doing. And so, as a result, they're targeting an audience who has a sweet tooth by comparison. Okay, so they're asking the wrong people. But let's say they even ask the right people. And they do a blind taste test. They would go to the top of the curve. You will note that honest tea is not at the top of the curve. And so the question is, why do we intentionally make a product which does not taste the best possible?
You differentiate
Sugar.
yourself.
So one view is to differentiate ourselves, okay, from the people who dishonest tea.
Corn in the niche market?
Corner who?
A niche market.
Niche market? Well, I'm hoping our market isn't going to be niche.
It's cheaper to put less sugar.
It's cheaper to put less sugar in, and I'm cheap. So, and what else is true about less sugar? Healthier. So here's the thing, and you won't believe that I'm going to say this to you, but some of you may have taken calculus in your life. Okay? And when you took calculus and you maximize a function, what's the derivative of the maximum? Zero. You never thought an entrepreneur would tell you this, but basically if you cut back how much sugar you use, you lose almost nothing in terms of taste because the slope is zero here.
Uh-huh.
And so what it says is that it can't be optimal to maximize taste if people care about other things. And so my friend in the back who's standing up, who are you? Who's eating with a mouthful? You know who it is?
Yeah.
Madeline?
Yes.
So basically, as we cut back sugar, we save a large amount of cost. And the customer saves the cost of ingredients, and nobody loses much in terms of taste. And so therefore, when companies like Coke and Nestle do their focus groups, they do blind focus groups, and that leads you to make products that are too sweet. Now, one of the things I like doing as a source of innovation is to flip things, to turn things around. So what is the opposite of a blind taste test?
When we know the product.
Yeah.
And what don't you do?
You don't taste it.
You don't taste it. So basically, think of what a blind taste test is. Your eyes are closed and your mouth is open. And the flip of that is your mouth is closed and your eyes are open. So what's that result, if you like? I would call that a label test. I get to see what the ingredients are, what the calories are. Now, if I was doing that, what label would win? I claim maybe a product way over here. It might not taste so good, but it'd have a great label. And so I'd say the blind test is just as dumb as the label test. And the right solution is somewhere in between the two. I care about what the label says, I care about the cost of ingredients, and I also care about the taste. But I shouldn't just be picking one over the other. Okay, so now I've really answered all your questions, I hope, which is essentially distribution channels are favoring us, they're not copying us. There's not quite enough supply. There's cognitive dissonance. They use the wrong group of customers to test their products, the adolescents. They use the wrong focus group type. They use blind taste tests. And they have the wrong hurdles. And so you put all those things together, I think it gives us some breathing room.
Okay. So you put the product together.
Yeah.
you pitch to Whole Foods, they put in their order,
Right?
and then what happens?
Well, hold on a sec. The key question here is the big thing for all entrepreneurs. Minimum viable product. Okay? You don't go to a factory in 25 days. So how are you going to bring this product to Whole Foods to get your order?
Co-packer?
I don't even find a co-packer in 25 days.
In your kitchen.
Kitchen, not garage. Okay, and how is the product going to taste, the one we make in our kitchen compared to the one we make in the factory?
It's not gonna be very consistent.
Do I care about consistency? How many bottles is the buyer going to try? One. Okay, what about quality? Which is going to be better, the one we make in the factory or the one in our kitchen? Kitchen. So basically, if the person doesn't like this product, they ain't going to like the ones coming out of the factory, that's for sure. And how much money have I lost in terms of investment?
Minimal.
Almost nothing. Okay? Now, I can't just bring the person some cups and say, hey, try this. It's got to look real. So essentially, we had a graphic designer make some labels, printed them out, took old Snapple bottles, washed them off,
That's the best part.
spray painted the caps black so it looked like a wine bottle because we were trying to have this sort of classy look. Put on the labels with rubber cement, filled them up, and then we opened them up. Seth opened them up so there was no pop, but nobody noticed. So it looked like a real product, but it wasn't. I'm a big believer in going for minimal viable products and get to the market quickly. You know how Zappos first did it? Zappos, the shoe store. How do you go and sell shoes online?
You just grab it from the shoe store?
You grab them from a shoe store. Basically, you say to the shoe store, can I buy your shoes at some, 20% discount, and put your inventory up? And then they come and they make the order, and I go downstairs and ship them out. And that tells me whether or not people will buy them or not online, as opposed to I have to pay thousands of dollars or tens of thousands in inventory and track it and all that stuff. It's obviously not the way I'm going to do this business in the long run, but I can do it that way a little bit for a while. And so make the product exist. So we have, I'm wearing one. I'm wearing from Tuckerman & Company, an organic cotton shirt. So how do you discover if people will pay $100 for an organic cotton shirt or not?
Buy when we try to sell it online.
Okay, selling online is going to be ultimately going to sell online, but what in some sense would be a slightly easier test? Can I sell it in person? Right? Because if I can't sell it in person, I'm surely not going to be able to sell it online. Okay, now how do I get my shirt?
Buy it.
From where?
Someone makes it already.
Well, I'll come back to that, but let's say there's nobody who makes it. There is no.
Make one.
Make one. How? How do I make one?
Go to a tailor.
Go to a tailor. Basically, you could go to a person who makes custom shirts, and for $200 you could get a
Fitted shirt.
nice organic. Okay. And now what I can do is I can say to Peter, "Hey, Peter, would you buy this shirt? Here's what it looks like. You can see it's kind of looks pretty well. I didn't iron it. You can feel the cotton is kind of nice and smooth. And really, would you buy it? Okay, can I see the checkbook? I'll take your order right now.
Vote with your wallet.
Yeah, that's a market research I'll believe. As opposed to a survey, would you pay? I mean, basically, because when you can look and see and touch it and realize it's real. Now, it may cost me $200 to make this original shirt, so I can't sell it to him for $100. I got that. I'm going to have to later on go to a factory and make it mass produced and so on. But in the meantime, essentially, if I can't sell you this shirt, which fits me perfectly, looks great, then there isn't a demand for it. And so I can make a minimal viable product without having to go to Italy, without having to buy lots of fabric and so on. Now, in fact, the slightly cheaper version we did is we found somebody else who tried to make organic cotton shirts and went out of business and bought some of their inventory. And then you can just take out the label. But again, it's sort of, I can find out much more quickly who my target customers are, how many they'll buy. And here's the thing about shirts. Okay? How many shirts does a typical guy own?
5. 10.
Yeah,
I don't know, I have like close to 40.
yeah, okay?
Like you're talking about button downs?
Yeah.
I have like 40 something.
Yeah, a typical guy has a couple dozen shirts. Okay, and so if you saw a shirt you really liked, is there anything actually going to stop you from buying it?
No.
No, because basically shirts wear out. And so as a result, if I can't sell Peter a shirt today,
It's a problem.
then it's a real problem because I got the personal thing I can say, look, pesticides. Biggest use of pesticides in any product is cotton. So essentially, if you think about eating organic, forget apples. Cotton is really where it matters. If he's not sold on this, and by the look and the feel, I'm out of luck. Now, we discovered in the process of doing this that people at Forestry and Environmental Studies, not our customers. Why? What do they think the green shirt is? Going to Goodwill and getting a used shirt that somebody else has already worn and bought. So what we discovered in the process is the customers for this are really people who drive Priuses.
Okay, so scaling. Honest tea.
Yeah.
Initial orders. How were they received?
I know what you mean.
So you go into Whole Foods, you distribute the product into Whole Foods, and how was that received? Was it a roaring success?
We had to make sure it was a roaring success. You can't just, it's not, so you send your family in to buy stuff. You do pretty much, we did samples at there's 17 Whole Food stores in the Mid-Atlantic region. I think we sampled every store every week for the whole summer. And when you do sampling, so here's the thing about this product. Once you try it, you either like it or you don't. If you like it, we got you, because there's nothing else out there. And so that's all we had to do. And we just had to hope there were enough people, and the reaction was amazing, because the reaction emails essentially were, where have you been all my life? Or I had this idea, you stole it from me. It's like, yeah. So.
I guess the question is, you started in '98, and then you grow year on year until 2008 when Coca-Cola has a particular interest in the company.
Yeah.
And, I guess how did you kind of handle that, because Coke is not necessarily seen as a. How did you kind of handle that, because Coke is not necessarily seen as a honest, healthy.
Really?
Gee, I missed that one. Actually, I think there's some important things you gotta put in along the way.
Yeah.
Have any of you heard of the Honest Company? Jessica Alba?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, she took it bigger than we did. So we stopped at Honest beverages, but their view was everything honest, stuff that you can trust. And so that ended up being Honest diapers, Honest shampoo, Honest cosmetics, and they're a unicorn after 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's crazy. And certainly it helps that there's Jessica Alba associated with it. I got that. But nonetheless, there is an incredible desire among consumers to have a company you can trust. And we had built that relationship with our consumers, and we could have taken it even further. And so I just want to help you to see that, so, you start off and you think tea bags, and then you say, well, wait a second, think beverages broadly, and then think about in general, what is it that should be made more honest?
Once you'd had that realization about the honest being more important, did you ever have sort of in the back of your mind that impulse to take it bigger and then decide not to, or?
Well, we tried food bars, and I think food bars would be fine, but we never thought about going outside of food. So then it comes to Coca-Cola. I haven't forgotten your question. And, why should we do a deal with Coke?
You want to go back to teaching?
I've been teaching the whole time.
They need you.
Okay, they need us.
At some point it becomes too big to handle, I would think.
Yeah, too big to handle, all right.
Unless you want to grow to be decided.
Well, I wouldn't mind doing that. Picture for you do, don't they? That's about where we were at the time. That's what our sales thing looked like. So I think this is one of the pressures you have as an entrepreneur. At this point, we've got a company, and I can't remember exactly what the valuation was, but let's say it was around 50 million. How much of my wealth is set up in this company? In this company?
99%.
More than 100%. In the sense that I have signed personal guarantees for our bank lines. So, my retirement savings, my house, we didn't anticipate the 2008 the crash would happen. But I'll tell you, I would not want to have raised money in 2008, 2009. That would have been no fun whatsoever. And by the way, we had a bank line, because at the time, when you have sales of 40 million, you have 2 months of inventory receivables. So, I don't know, take 50 over 8 million or so inventory receivables. And you want to grow, by the way, so you need that to go up. The bank basically ended our credit line. That could have pretty much shut us down. It's suddenly becomes, it's not a game anymore. It's your life. It's really risky. Okay, so that's one part to the picture. Another part to the picture. Coca-Cola had bought a company called Vitamin Water, Glasso, is actually. And they paid a stupid amount of money for it. They paid $4.2 billion. One of the things, the reasons why they paid that much money was it was a product that was viewed as a must-have among distributors. And so they said to distributors, if you want this product, which we now own, you have to give us veto power over any new products you take on. And they said, fine. And like that, we were shut out of all new Coke distributors. So we've been getting new distributors, including some Coke distributors, and with this deal, no more. Meanwhile, Snapple was sending letters out to their distributors saying, we consider Honest Tea to be a competitive brand with ours, and you are in violation of your distribution agreement by carrying Honest Tea. So we saw some problems on the horizon in terms of it's going to be difficult getting new distribution. We were in a very strong position. I was getting a little bit worried about my personal guarantees. And this is the thing that I think ultimately was the kicker. Coke and Nestle had a partnership to make something called Nestea. And a lot of the distributors refer to that as nasty. This was a time when tea was really going up in the market and nasty was going down. And so therefore they saw their partnership wasn't working. And so they dissolved it. And that meant for the first time in 20 years or so, Coke and Nestle were each able to sell iced tea on their own. And the boards of both companies said your number one strategic objective is to get a tea company to fix this problem.
You're at the top of the category.
And we're at the top of the category. And moreover, what Coke says to us is the following. We love you, you're our number one choice, but if we don't buy you, guess what we're going to do?
Crush you.
Well, they didn't have to say that, actually. They said, we have to buy a tea company. We don't want to buy somebody else, but frankly, we will. And not only would we compete with you, they don't have to say this, but also when it comes time to buy you, we're going to be less interested because we'll already have one. We were spending 19 cents a bottle on these things. Coke gets them for 11 cents.
Wow.
8 cents a bottle on 100 million bottles is
A lot of money.
$8 million a year.
Why
Okay?
did you go with Coke instead of Nestle?
Why would you?
Better deal.
Different reasons.
What would you think?
I don't know if they could have better worldwide distribution. They could have better margins because they have more volume and better factories.
Coca-Cola's a beverage company.
Coca-Cola's a beverage company.
Wow.
They have better access distribution.
Market saturation.
Nestle was really relying on other people to do distribution for them. So essentially, there just is no one who has market access like Coke. And so now I think Honest Tea is in Burger King in terms of if you can really become part of the Coke system, your ability, and so one of the key things is we don't want this to be an unaffordable luxury. And the fact that Coke could help bring the cost down so much actually meant that we didn't have to raise price. We could become profitable at our existing price. And this is something we call Field of Dreams pricing, which is you price not based on your current cost, but based on the cost you expect to have when you have the volume you need to have. And the goal is not to lose enough money along the way that you go out of business. So, and effectively, we didn't want to be like Starbucks, where it was considered to be a luxury. We wanted this to be something that you could afford every day, and so that's something else Coca-Cola could do. So, I think the line we used. This is the line from Muhtar Kent. We don't want to change you. We want you to change Coke. We'll see if it's true, but at least that was the idea.